Chapter 1. A Good Heart. Once upon a time, in a small village, there was a young man named Thomas. He was a good person. People liked him because he was kind and honest. Thomas lived in a village surrounded by beautiful hills and friendly neighbors. Thomas grew up in the village. His parents taught him to be a good person. They taught him to always tell the truth and to care about others. Thomas listened to his parents and learned from them. As Thomas grew older, he became known for his kind heart. He always tried to help others. If someone needed assistance carrying heavy bags, Thomas would lend a hand. If someone was feeling sad, Thomas would comfort them with kind words. Thomas believed in treating everyone with respect. He would say please and thank you to others. He would greet his neighbors with a smile and a friendly hello. One day, while walking through the village, Thomas noticed a man named Henry. Henry seemed troubled and unhappy. He often looked angry and shouted at people. Thomas wondered why Henry behaved this way. Instead of avoiding Henry, Thomas decided to approach him. He smiled and said, "Hello, my name is Thomas. How are you today?" Henry looked surprised by the kindness and didn't respond at first. But Thomas persisted, patiently waiting for a response. Finally, Henry sighed and replied, "I'm not doing so well. My life is difficult, and I don't know how to handle it." Thomas listened attentively. He realized that Henry needed someone to talk to, someone who would understand his struggles. Thomas said, "I'm here to listen if you want to share." Sometimes talking about our problems can make them feel a little lighter. Henry hesitated, but then opened up about his past. He had faced many hardships, and it had left him feeling angry and frustrated. Thomas nodded, showing that he understood how difficult life could be. Instead of judging Henry, Thomas showed him compassion. He said, "I'm sorry to hear that you've had a tough time, but you don't have to face it alone. We can work through it together, and I'll be here to support you." Henry looked surprised. He hadn't expected anyone to care about him or offer help. But Thomas's words touched his heart, and he felt a glimmer of hope. From that day on, Thomas and Henry became friends. Thomas showed Henry that kindness and understanding could make a difference in someone's life. He encouraged Henry to find healthier ways to deal with his anger and frustration. Together, they worked on community projects that promoted kindness and respect. They organized events where people could come together and help each other. Slowly, the village started to change. People began to show more kindness towards one another. Inspired by Thomas's example, the village noticed the positive transformation in Henry. He no longer shouted or behaved angrily. Instead, he smiled and greeted others with kindness. The villagers welcomed him and appreciated the changes he had made. Thomas's kind heart and his willingness to help others made a big impact on the village. People started to look up to him as a role model. They saw that being a good person didn't require great wealth or power, but rather a genuine care for others. As Thomas continued his journey, he knew that being a good person meant treating everyone with kindness and respect. He believed that a small act of kindness could have a ripple effect, spreading goodness throughout the village and beyond. And so, Thomas's story of being a good man began, touching the lives of those around him and inspiring others to follow in his footsteps. Chapter 2. A New Friendship. After their initial conversation, Thomas and Henry became friends. They would often meet in the village square to talk and share stories. Their friendship grew stronger with each passing day. Thomas continued to show kindness and patience towards Henry, knowing that he had a troubled past. He understood that change takes time, and he was determined to support Henry throughout his journey. One sunny afternoon, Thomas invited Henry to join him for a walk through the village. As they strolled along the cobblestone streets, they admired the colorful houses and the vibrant flowers that adorned the windowsills. "Isn't it beautiful?" Thomas asked, pointing to a garden filled with blooming roses. Henry nodded and smiled. "It really is. I never noticed these things before. I was always too caught up in my own troubles." Thomas put a hand on Henry's shoulder. Sometimes when we focus on the positive things around us, it can help ease the weight of our problems. Let's try to see the beauty in the world together. As they continued their walk, they came across an elderly woman struggling with her groceries. Her bags were heavy and she looked exhausted. Without hesitation, Thomas approached her and said, "Excuse me, ma'am. May we help you with your bags?" The woman's tired face brightened up and she nodded gratefully. Together, Thomas and Henry carried the bags to the woman's doorstep. "Thank you, young men," she said with a warm smile. "You've made my day a little bit easier." Thomas smiled back. "It was our pleasure. Helping others brings us joy too." As they walked away, Henry turned to Thomas and said, "You're right. I've never really thought about how helping others can make us feel good too. It's a different kind of happiness." Thomas nodded. "Exactly, Henry. When we show kindness and help those in need, it not only benefits them but also fills our hearts with warmth." They continued their walk, sharing stories and laughter along the way. Henry began to realize the power of friendship and how it could change his life for the better. Over time, Henry started to emulate Thomas's kind-heartedness. He began offering assistance to those in need and showing respect to everyone he met. The villagers noticed the change in Henry and appreciated his efforts. One day, while Thomas and Henry were sitting by the village fountain, a young child approached them. The child had tears streaming down their face, clutching a broken toy in their hands. "What's wrong, little one?" Thomas asked, concern in his voice. The child sniffled. My toy is broken and I don't know how to fix it." Henry, seeing the child's distress, spoke up. "Don't worry, I can help. Let's see what we can do." With gentle hands, Henry examined the broken toy and started fixing it. He managed to mend it using a few simple tools he had in his pocket. The child's face lit up with joy and gratitude. "You did it!" the child exclaimed, hugging Henry tightly. Henry smiled, feeling a sense of fulfillment and happiness he had never experienced before. He realized that being a good person wasn't just about his own personal growth, but also about making a positive impact on others. As the days went by, Thomas and Henry's friendship continued to blossom. They supported each other through life's ups and downs, always reminding one another of the importance of kindness and empathy. Little did they know that their journey of friendship and goodness would inspire others in the village to follow their lead. The seeds of kindness they sowed would eventually grow into a garden of compassion, transforming the entire community. Chapter 3. A Community United. As Thomas and Henry's friendship blossomed, they realized the power of their actions in bringing positive change to their village. They decided to work together to create a stronger, more united community. One sunny morning, they gathered in the village square and put up a sign inviting everyone to a community meeting. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss ways to spread kindness and make their village an even better place to live. The villagers were curious and intrigued by the invitation. They filled the square, eager to hear what Thomas and Henry had to say. Thomas stepped forward and greeted everyone warmly. "Thank you all for coming today. Henry and I believe that by working together, we can make a real difference in our village. Let's start by sharing our ideas on how we can promote kindness and unity." An elderly man named Mr. Johnson raised his hand. "I think organizing a weekly cleanup day would be a great idea. We can gather as a community and clean up our streets and public spaces together." The idea resonated with the crowd, and people started discussing the logistics of implementing it. They decided to set a specific day each week for the cleanup activity and encouraged everyone to participate. A young woman named Sarah suggested organizing a food drive to help those in need. She proposed collecting non-perishable food items and distributing them to families who were struggling financially. The villagers enthusiastically agreed, and plans were made to set up donation boxes at various locations in the village. They also formed a volunteer committee to coordinate the collection and distribution of the donated items. As the meeting continued, more ideas flowed. Some villagers proposed starting a garden project where they could grow fruits and vegetables together, while others suggested organizing a neighborhood watch program to ensure everyone's safety. Thomas and Henry were overjoyed to witness the enthusiasm and commitment of their fellow villagers. They saw the power of unity and realized that when people come together for a common cause, great things can be achieved. In the weeks that followed, the villagers actively participated in the community initiatives. They cleaned the streets, donated food, planted gardens, and worked together to make their village a better place. The impact of their collective efforts was felt throughout the community. People started to smile and greet each other more often. The village became cleaner, safer, and more vibrant. Thomas and Henry were proud of what they had accomplished together. They knew that their journey had not only transformed their own lives, but had also touched the lives of every villager. One evening, as they sat by the village fountain, Thomas turned to Henry and said, "Look at how far we've come. Our village is filled with kindness, and it's all because of the unity and compassion we've inspired." Henry smiled. "Yes, Thomas, I never thought that my life could change so much. Your friendship and guidance have shown me the way to become a better person." Thomas clasped Henry's shoulder. "Remember, Henry, being a good person isn't just about changing ourselves. It's about inspiring others and creating a positive ripple effect. Together we can make a difference." And so, the villagers continued their journey of kindness and unity, following Thomas and Henry's lead. They learned that by working together, they could create a harmonious community where everyone felt valued and supported. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the village thrived, and the bonds between the villagers grew stronger. They realized that being a good person didn't require grand gestures, but rather small acts of kindness and a genuine concern for one another. And so, the story of Thomas and Henry's village became an example of how a community can come together, inspire change, and create a better world. Chapter 4. A Village of Kindness. The village had changed for the better. People were kinder and more helpful to one another. Thomas and Henry were very happy with the progress they had seen. They wanted to celebrate the village's kindness, so they planned a special event called the Day of Kindness. They put up signs around the village to invite everyone. The day arrived, and the village square was full of excitement. There were decorations everywhere, and people were smiling and talking happily. Thomas and Henry stood in the center, welcoming everyone with friendly smiles. They explained that the event was to appreciate the kindness in the village and inspire more kindness. The villagers were excited to share their stories of kindness. They talked about helping neighbors, sharing food with those in need, and always being ready to lend a hand. To make the event special, Thomas and Henry arranged different activities. They set up a wall where people could write down acts of kindness they had seen or experienced. The wall quickly filled up with nice messages. There was also a place where people could write thank you notes to show their gratitude for someone's kindness. The notes were pinned on a board, creating a beautiful display of thanks. The highlight of the event was a challenge. Each villager was encouraged to do something kind for a stranger. People complimented each other, held doors open, and gave small gifts. The village was filled with kindness. At the end of the day, Thomas and Henry thanked the villagers for their support. They said, "Today has been a special day. We have seen how powerful kindness is. Let's continue this journey of spreading kindness every day." The villagers cheered and agreed. They understood that the Day of Kindness was just the beginning. They pledged to keep being kind in their daily lives. From that day forward, the village continued to flourish with kindness. Helping each other became a natural thing, and the villagers became even closer. Thomas and Henry were filled with joy as they saw the village's progress. They knew that their journey had made a difference, and kindness would continue to shine in the village for years to come. As the sun set on the Day of Kindness, the villagers joined hands and formed a circle. They promised to keep the kindness alive and make the world a better place with their acts of kindness. And so, the story of the village showed how simple acts of kindness can create a beautiful and caring community. Chapter 5. Spreading kindness everywhere. The village had become a model of kindness, and Thomas and Henry wanted to share their village's story with others. They set out on a mission to spread kindness to neighboring towns and villages. Walking from place to place, Thomas and Henry carried posters and pamphlets that told the tale of their village's transformation through acts of kindness. Their first stop was Willowbrook, a nearby village. They approached the villagers with friendly smiles and began sharing their village's story. They spoke about the simple acts of kindness that had brought their community together. They explained how helping others had made their village a better place. The people of Willowbrook listened with interest. They were inspired by Thomas and Henry's story and wanted to bring the same kindness to their village. Thomas and Henry handed out the pamphlets and posters they had brought. The materials encouraged people to do kind things every day and make a positive difference. The villagers of Willowbrook eagerly embraced the idea. They discussed ways to promote kindness within their own community, just like Thomas and Henry had done. Thomas and Henry continued their journey, visiting one village after another. They shared their village's story and gave out their materials, hoping to inspire others to be kind. In each village, they encountered different cultures, languages, and customs. Communication was sometimes challenging, but they used gestures and simple words to get their message across. The villagers they met were touched by Thomas and Henry's sincerity. They realized that kindness was a universal language that could bring people together. As Thomas and Henry traveled, they saw acts of kindness taking root. They witnessed people helping each other, sharing what they had, and spreading happiness. Their journey was not always easy. They faced tiredness, difficulties in communication, and some people who were unsure. But their belief in kindness kept them going. After visiting many villages, Thomas and Henry decided to return home. They were proud of the impact they had made and grateful for the experiences they had gained. When they arrived back in their village, the villagers welcomed them warmly. They were eager to hear about the places they had visited and the people they had met. Thomas and Henry shared stories of the villages they had seen, highlighting the acts of kindness they had witnessed. They showed how their village's story had touched the lives of others. The villagers listened with joy, realizing that their own kindness had made a difference beyond their village. They felt motivated to continue spreading kindness every day, and so the message of kindness spread far and wide. Thomas and Henry's journey had not only changed their village, but had also inspired others to be kind, creating a better world for everyone. Chapter 6. The Power of Kindness. The village had become a place of kindness, and Thomas and Henry wanted to remind everyone about the importance of being kind. They organized a gathering in the village square. The villagers gathered together, excited for the event. Thomas and Henry stood in front of them and smiled warmly. They shared stories of kind acts they had seen in the village and encouraged everyone to keep spreading kindness. To make the event interactive, they arranged a game called Kindness Chain. The villagers formed a circle and passed a ball of yarn as they shared a kind act they had done. Each person held onto the yarn, creating a chain of kindness. One by one, the villagers shared stories of helping their neighbors, sharing food, or offering a helping hand. The chain grew longer and longer as more kind acts were mentioned. Thomas and Henry praised each person's kindness and reminded them that even small acts of kindness can make a big difference in someone's day. As the gathering came to an end, Thomas and Henry thanked everyone for their participation. They encouraged the villagers to continue being kind every day, as it was the key to maintaining the village's harmonious spirit. The villagers left the gathering with renewed determination to spread kindness. They understood that kindness was not just a one-time event, but a way of life. And so, the village continued to flourish with kindness. Acts of compassion became a regular occurrence, and the villagers found joy in helping one another. As the sun set on the gathering, the villagers formed a circle once more. They joined hands and made a promise to keep spreading kindness, not only within the village, but also beyond its borders. With hearts full of warmth and a commitment to kindness, the villagers went back to their homes, ready to embrace a life filled with compassion and goodwill. And thus, the story of the village and its journey towards kindness came to a close, leaving a legacy that would inspire generations to come.